In an April 8, 2016 episode of Coast to Coast, a man named Edward claimed he had a run-in with a very strange creature outside Alamogordo, New Mexico. He was driving his friend from Long Island out to Tucson, Arizona. Coming through the mountains into Alamogordo, New Mexico, he observed what he believed to be a dog in the middle of the road. Thinking he was going to hit the animal, Edward promptly stopped the truck. "I'm driving a Toyota pickup with a U-Haul trailer." And I said, "Alright," and he comes up to the driver's side door. Now I had plenty of rest because I'm sleeping during the day. He's driving during the day. I drive all night. I wake my buddy up. "Darren, wake up, look at this." The dog gets up, and he had short front legs like a dingo. The eyes were glowing. Dingoes are indigenous to Africa. They're not in the southwest out in the desert. Edward claims that this dingo moved up to the side of his truck. What happened next is bizarre. Anyway, he comes up. I rolled my window down a little bit, and I said, "No, something's not right." So I locked the door. I pushed the button down with my elbow because I'm left-handed. I hit the door, and I reached over with my right hand and rolled the window up. He scratched on the window, and then he was literally trying to open the door. He stood up. He stood up on his hind legs, back hind legs, and he was literally trying to lift the door handle like he knew what he was doing. And I said, "Darren, wake up." And he looked over and he said, "What the hell is that?" Edward claims that he immediately put the truck in gear and made it up a large hill away from the strange glowing-eyed Dingo Man. He reached and tried to open the door on the truck. If I didn't lock it in time, he probably would have opened the door. I'll never forget it. I was 20 or 21. I'm 45 now. Craziest thing. I generally don't use Reddit as a source because there's so much creepy pasta masquerading as supposedly true stories that I don't really feel comfortable with it. However, sometimes I come across a story that's just interesting and I want to discuss it. I found this case really weird. I mean, it could have been a prank, but I'm not sure. But it is interesting. I figured I'd share it. From what I can tell, this happened around 2011. According to the poster, a person named Amanda, she and a group of friends traveled to Mexico for their holidays. They rented out a bungalow, one with a large forest in their backyard. At some point during the day, Amanda elected to stay behind while her friends went out to do some shopping and grab some alcohol. After telling Amanda that they intended to lock the door, they eventually left. The store was only about 15 minutes from the bungalow, and so Amanda decided to take a very quick shower and maybe watch some TV until they got back. About 5 minutes after the friends left, Amanda claimed she heard a knock on the front door. She found this odd as the friends had keys to the front door and would have just unlocked it and entered if they wanted back inside. Assuming that the friends were either too lazy to open it or maybe they forgot something, Amanda got out of the shower and made her way to the door. I literally got out of the shower with bubbles in my hair and was walking towards the door with a towel just wrapped around me. The door had a panel of textured glass in the middle, and I could see this massive entity standing there. My friends and I are quite small, and the guys have blonde hair. This thing looked big and black and was very tall. Whatever it was, it's tapping on the door, and I'm standing in the entrance to the kitchen just peeking around the corner. I don't want it to see me, and I slowly crouch down and crawl to the sofa. It's still tapping and just there. Amanda claims that after a lengthy amount of time, what felt like ages to her, the entity finally walked away. When her friends returned, they told her they had something strange to tell her. My friends come back and Jake just quickly opened the door and goes, "Oh my God, Amanda. We were walking back and we turned the road where the room is, right? And we see this massive thing. It looked like a hyena." That's all I can describe it as, but only it was walking on 2 legs. He's still going on. "Yeah, and we saw it. It started making a weird yelling, growling noise. I swear to you, Amanda, it walked off on those 2 legs and into the forest." For her part, Amanda was just happy that somebody else actually saw the thing. Was this Hyena Man real, or was Amanda the victim of a prank pulled on her by her friends? Certainly it's a possibility. I have heard of injured animals that over time learn to walk on their hind legs in order to survive, but given the size of this hyena as described by Amanda, and the fact that it actually knocked on the door of the bungalow leads me to wonder if it was something more than just an injured hyena. Certainly if there was a massive upright walking hyena knocking on doors in Mexico, we would have probably heard about it by now. If this is true and the friends were not involved in staging a prank, then one must wonder what might have happened to Amanda if she had chosen to open the door. Would she be just another missing persons case, or yet another unsolved death blamed on a wild animal? Over the years, the British UFO Research Association of Bufora has acquired some cases which describe encounters with very bizarre beings. In July 1965, a couple and their baby son were traveling on an overnight trip somewhere near Millenthorpe, Cumbria. They decided to pull off at a rest area in order to do their business and have a quick cigarette. It was very late at this point, and shortly after pulling in, they noticed an intense red light, which appeared lens or dome-shaped, behind a nearby dry stone wall. Within this light they could see three small creatures that seemed to give off a slight green luminescence. They were odd-looking, with large, round, staring eyes, a long nose that looked like a small elephant trunk, and a mouth that appeared to be no more than a slit. They had large turnip-shaped heads, and their bodies were round with hands with digits that were not defined. According to the witnesses, two of the three entities had their arms held out in front of them, as if gesturing to them. Witnesses could see definite muscle tone or bone structure, and they did not appear to be wearing any clothing. About 15 feet from the car in front of the wall, the beings appeared. Not surprisingly, the witnesses became frightened and quickly entered the vehicle and drove off. They did not see the beings or the craft depart. It's interesting that the witnesses described the beings as having noses that look like small elephant trunks. It definitely sounds like they encountered Deros. For those who don't know, Deros are strange cave-dwelling beings with long elephant noses who were popularized in author Richard Saber's mysteries. While some UFO researchers dismiss accounts of Deros as nothing more than science fiction, others like YouTuber Brenton Sawin believe they are real. Sawin himself actually claims to have encountered a Dero and has, over the years, collected accounts from other people who also claim to have encountered them. Anyone familiar with ufology will probably have heard of Alison Yellowknife. On October 7, 1979, she and three other people, all under the age of 14, had a very bizarre experience involving missing time at her parents' trailer in Wabasca, Alberta. Alison, who was only 7 at the time, would continue to have weird experiences throughout her life, so much so that she was asked to contribute to a documentary called Northern Encounters about UFO abductions in Western Canada. It was while writing her segment of this planned documentary that she would have her most terrifying experience to date. It was the night of February 14, 2001. Alison was at her home in Edmonton, Alberta. Her husband, who was employed by CN Rail, was away at work, so she was home alone with her 3-year-old son Aaron, who was sleeping in his room. Sitting at her computer working, Alison began to feel weird and decided to step away for a bit, maybe clear her head. Heading into the kitchen, she stopped in front of a window and looked out. At that moment, she observed a flash of light. It blinded her momentarily, and she began to see spots. Although she wasn't tired, she went into her bedroom and laid down. Certainly under normal circumstances, she would have been rushing around looking for answers as to what caused the flash, but in this case, she felt only the need to go lay down. Sometime later that evening, Alison woke up. For some reason, she felt the need to go to the window. Upon looking out her window, she was shocked by what she saw. There, in the backyard of her home, were 10 black panthers looking up at her. The strangest thing, they were standing on their hind legs, like men. Looking at their faces, she noticed that they appeared to be snarling and angry. From there, things would continue to get more bizarre. She watched as one of these Panther Men walked up to the front door of the house and knocked. Peering out the window, she noted that the figure seemed to morph into a human. At this point, the entity identified itself as Raymond, her cousin, although she knew it wasn't him. Upon realizing that she would not open the door, the entity morphed back into an upright walking Black Panther. From there, she watched as 3 of the Panther Men scaled the tree in her yard and entered a window at the side of the house. The panic and terror became too much, and she eventually passed out. Her next memory was waking up on the floor next to the window. Her son was screaming for her. She rushed to his room and found him in bed crying. "Mommy, Mommy, there were 3 big black cats that came from the window. One was walking on my bed. It was heavy on my legs, and the others were under my bed. The other one is in the closet," the child said. She checked and found nothing in the closet. Later, upon prodding, the child told her that the Panther Men had a message for her. She should stop working on the documentary, or they would come back and take her son. Alison somehow convinced herself that what she and her kids saw couldn't possibly be real, so she continued to work on the documentary as it was so close to being completed anyway. Interestingly, the very next day, her computer went on the fritz at the exact same time her phone rang. When she picked up the phone, she heard static. The call display number on the phone read 0123456789. Eventually, the computer shut itself down. Upon turning on the computer again, she discovered that the file folders with all of her work were emptied. To her, it appeared as though somebody had wiped her computer clean. She decided to call up the phone company, and the operator informed her that, on their end, they had no record of anybody calling her line at the time she indicated the call came in. The following day brought even more strangeness, as she observed a black car parked across the street from her place. Inside were two men wearing black hats and black sunglasses. Alison's mother, who lived in the area, also saw these men, but she believed that they were merely Jehovah's Witnesses. For the next 3 days, the black car and its strange occupants remained parked across the street. On the third day, Alison called the police, who informed her that they would send a car over when they could, and that it was not a crime to park. On the fourth day, Alison attempted to confront the men, but they drove off as she approached. This happened again the next day. Following this, Alison fell ill. She would once again see the Panther Man outside her window. It became too much, and she ultimately decided to walk away from the project. The experiences, which began in 1979, all but ceased. Were these Panther Men merely a screen memory? Not unlike those alien abductees who talk of encountering large owls or raccoons. While Black Panthers are fairly common in the paranormal, upright walking Black Panthers or Panther Men are not. She claims she watched as one of these beings changed into a human-looking person, only to morph back right in front of her eyes. This suggests that they indeed had the power to change their appearance at will. Had they taken on the look of a panther to frighten her? If so, why had they morphed into a human in an attempt to trick her? Why not just arrive as people? My sense is that they intended to inflict maximum terror. Their threat, either she stopped her work or they would take her child, definitely points to their desire to frighten her. The fact that both she and her son encountered these beings also suggests that this was not a type of schizophrenic hallucination or a vivid dream. Couple this with the arrival of the strange men in black, the week-long surveillance, and the apparent wiping of her files, one has to wonder what exactly these beings were afraid of getting out.